there, my name's Gill Tiney. I'm from Collaboration Global, and this is our podcast, Being Human, Hidden Depths. I'm going to be interviewing some of our members from Collaboration Global, and they're going to be sharing with you their extraordinary lives. Although they would probably believe they're just normal, everyday, average humans, but they are extraordinary. A bit like you and me. We all have our story to tell. We've all been through difficult times, and we've come out the other end having learned an extraordinary amount about ourselves that we can share with others. So I think you'll find lots of things that will resonate with where you've been in your journey as well. I look forward to seeing you on the other side. Hello and welcome to Collaboration Global and the podcast Being Human, Hidden Depths. This episode, I'm very excited to say, it's not one of our Collaboration Global members yet, but we have a specialist in collaboration. I couldn't resist asking Grayson James onto this podcast today. Welcome, Grayson. It's lovely to have you in the room today.
Great to be with you, Jill. Thank you.
We came across each other by chance, although I'm sure the universe had a hand in it. It was a destiny that we should connect via LinkedIn. God bless LinkedIn. And on your profile, it says, I think it's a collaboration consultant, or there's some, the collaboration word always kind of triggers a little thing in me. So we had a conversation and we had this one-to-one, which gave me such hope for the future. You are already out there working with huge organizations and their teams and their management, helping them to understand what I've been kind of going on about for the last decade. And it feels like it's not just me saying these things. I feel very excited that it's like there's more of us out there, because you get the nuances around collaboration. So before I get too excited and carried away, could you tell us where the seed was first planted for you around collaboration? Has it always been there?
Yeah, sure. Well, it certainly wasn't a concept for me when I was growing up or in early adulthood. It just didn't occur to me that it was a thing. It just sort of happened. And then I found myself leading a private school system in the San Francisco Bay Area with multiple campuses and multiple heads of each of the campuses. And we would get together regularly for our leadership meetings. And at first, I didn't really notice that some of those days we would spend together went really well, and it felt like we got a lot done. And other days, it seemed like, what just happened? We spent 6, 7, 8 hours together. These were full day offsites we would have at least once a month. And it started to dawn on me that it takes more than just smart, creative, committed people sitting down together to actually make good collaboration happen, to get good things done together. Then, so then I began focusing, well, let's see, what are all these people who work for me? What are they doing and not doing that is making it work? And that didn't take me anywhere. It wasn't until I started realizing that maybe I had something to do with it.
Yeah.
That the doors started opening. And that's when I got curious. I becoming curious about, well, what is it that I may be doing that could have some impact on how these meetings go? Not just because I was the leader, but because I was a participant. And so that sort of launched me. I left the schools after about 6 years leading them, and I became interested. I decided I wanted to learn more about collaboration. What's really going on in these settings when people are sitting down and trying to really focus on doing good work together? And so I enrolled in a mediation course, and it became one of many courses and trainings that I took, which led me to begin mediating. And I joined up with a mentor of mine, David Jenkins, who was a specialist in mediating what are called multi-party complex litigations in the California court system. And from there, I did that for quite a few years. And then I began working in organizations. I was just asked to come in and help leaders with their teams who were struggling, and things seemed to go well. And I found myself suddenly I was a consultant focusing on collaboration, and then I got trained as a what's called an ontological coach. And through all of that, I also had started the martial art of Aikido back when I was running the schools. And that really, I didn't realize it quite at the time, but I later started to realize how perfectly that martial art set up for me sort of a parallel universe where I could practice how can I be in such a way that makes it easier for other people to work with me. And so that has been a really central theme for me, and a central practice, the martial arts practice, that really has informed a lot of what I do with companies and leaders and teams.
It's interesting, isn't it? How something that you thought of as a different, this is my hobby, this is my interest, and then you've got the day job. And
Right.
actually, they are intrinsically linked along the way. I see this so many different times. It's like, you read Michael Singer's book, the Surrender Experiment, one of his books.
Yes. Yeah.
You know, his life was trying to, not on purpose, but he was bucking the trend. You know, he didn't want to go to college. He didn't want to, you know, he wanted to do things his way, and which was through meditation and yoga. And living a very, very simple life. And by doing that, he then became incredibly successful. And it was like his lifestyle and the way he was being and his interest impacted on the career that he didn't necessarily choose, but chose him, and that he was drawn to, that he kind of attracted to him, whether you believe in the laws of attraction or any of that kind of theory. I think the more people I know, they have something that's kind of this thread running through that really informs what they're doing as their day job, what they're doing that they love, what their business is. So it's interesting that this Aikido, and it plays a big part in your latest book, doesn't it? You do talk about it a lot.
It absolutely does. Yeah.
Yeah. So if people are interested, it's Full Contact Performance, the Internal Art of Organizational Collaboration. How'd you get the title? It's really hard, isn't it, finding a title about collaboration, because you Google collaboration and it all sounds really dry. Really.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. It either sounds really dry or just really airy-fairy, and like there's not a lot of substance to it.
Yes.
And well, the way I came up with the title was, I actually started probably about 10 years ago. I was leading workshops in organizations for teams and focusing on collaboration. And I just started thinking, well, what is it that I really find useful about my martial arts training? And I realized that it had something to do with the quality of contact that we make on the Aikido mat. Now, Aikido, I want to just clarify, Aikido is not a competitive art. It's actually one of the only martial arts that has no competitions, no tournaments, and its explicit aim is to deal with attacks or challenges without harming the opponent. So it's not only self-defense. I'm not only concerned with protecting myself, but also protecting the person who is attacking, coming at me with whatever energy they may be coming at me with. So sounds great in theory, harder to actually pull off, especially under pressure.
Yeah.
But I also studied some other arts, and including boxing, where you wear protective gear, but you're hitting each other and you're trying to hit each other. And I realized that I really loved that aspect of martial arts. And there is a way of training and kind of sparring that's called full contact, and that is where you don't hold back. You're really hitting each other, kicking, striking, grappling, full out. It's not that you're trying to hurt each other necessarily, hopefully you're not, but you are trying to score, you're trying to make points, you're trying to get the upper hand. Well, what I really liked about that is that, well, you could get hurt even if you're wearing protective gear. You learn a lot. There's something that happens when you're really facing that kind of a challenge where there's a lot at stake, where your senses are heightened. You have to be fully present, and you get to learn a lot about your own habits, your own training, your assumptions about yourself, your assumptions about the other people. And that's exactly what happens in collaboration when it's going well. Is you're fully present, you're bringing your entire self there, you're not holding one part of yourself back to play it safe or to avoid challenges, but you're doing it respectfully. You're doing it in a way that takes care of your colleagues while you're also taking care of yourself. And that's why I started calling those workshops full contact collaboration, full contact performance promises. And that's what led me to the book.
Brilliant.
The name of the book. Yeah,
that
long answer to a very
no,
short, innocent question.
Because it's a really interesting way of looking at a collaboration. It's like, you know, if you were to go into a boardroom and say, hey guys, this collaboration is just like Aikido, they'd be like, excuse me. It was not a natural connection, but when you talk about it, it is like the dance, isn't it? It's, you know, you can see the waves of how the emotions flow, how the energy flows around the room, and it is the same sort of thing in Aikido. Not that I've ever done it, I will grant you, but the idea of having a martial art that isn't about winning, for me, collaboration isn't about winning. It isn't about scoring points off of each other. It isn't about doing the deal and getting the big bucks in. It's about helping each other to shine and learning from that collaboration and getting a project done, but even better than you'd anticipated because of the openness, because of the desire to help each other to be the best that they can be. Where if you're sitting in marketing and there are sales sitting there, there's quite often a bit of scoring going off against each other. Well, I thought of that thing, but you know, sales didn't do anything about it. You know, I put that into the space, and there's this animosity that dooms a collaboration from day one. If it's there, if that negative energy is going to be there, it's going to pull the whole thing down. So understanding how you're not out to make winners and losers, you're all going to win, but you all have to be ready to be challenged, as you said. Be ready to be open, be ready to be authentic. If you're having a bad day, you can't just put a brave face on it on occasion. You know, you have to be able to feel free enough to put out a really ridiculous idea and know that people aren't going to laugh at you. They're going to go, I'm not sure, how does that work? Tell me more about it. You're allowed to be that free and open, because that's where the magic happens. And that's when you have fun, and that's where you enjoy the collaboration so much. It's like the project worked, let's do it again. And then that's the whole point of going to work, surely, is to enjoy yourself and have fun and achieve and be acknowledged and valued for how it went and for what you did within that collaboration. So full contact is logged in there now. I love that. It just absolutely resonates.
That's
over
great.
the years then, James, Grayson, in England.
Everyone does that. That's okay.
Sorry.
I'm really used to it.
Well, I'm used to being called in America Gill Tiney, so Gill Tiney.
Yeah, that's right. Of course.
I feel your pain. It's okay. In your book, that I'm still enjoying thoroughly at the moment, and I would recommend it to people, you have 5 principles and 3 conversations.
Yeah.
Without obviously telling us the whole book, how did you come up with these 5 principles and 3 conversations? Or did you just look back and go, well, I seem to be doing this a lot. It's the same 3 conversations I'm having, and this is where we're working from. How did you hone in on those areas?
Well, I honed in on each of those areas a little bit differently. The conversations, I learned about conversations when I was trained as an ontological coach and began working with one of my instructors, Rafael Echeverria.
Wow,
cool. Who is just this brilliant, magnificent human being who has pioneered, he's written many books, including one called The Ontology of Language, where he talks about the role of language and how we are as human beings. And I was introduced to the notion of designing conversations through him and that work.
Mm.
And there were many conversations that I was introduced to. And as over the years, as I was looking around at, well, what do we spend most of our time doing when I'm working with teams collaborating or individual leaders coaching them? And these three conversations, the learning conversation, the design conversation, and what I call the fulfillment conversation, are always present in every project, every collaboration. They're not always, we don't spend as much time in each of them as the other necessarily. Some collaborations or projects spend more time, say, in the fulfillment conversation, which is really about execution. It's about implementation.
Mm.
Than we do in, say, the learning conversation. Whereas in other interactions, there's a whole lot of learning that needs to go on before you can make any good decisions, design good problems to solve, or begin implementing. Because if you don't, you're going to be making decisions that are not so well grounded. You're going to be entering into promises that may not really align with your ultimate aims.
Mm.
So that's how I came up with those three central conversations. The 5 principles really was, as you said earlier, I wrote much of the book, and then I began looking, well, let's see, what am I really saying here? And that's one of the reasons I wrote the book, is because I've been doing this a long time. I've been doing this about 30 years now. And some of the things that I do are just so second nature that I'm not really aware that I'm doing them anymore.
Mm.
And I've been, continuing to integrate new ideas and concepts and practices. And I started feeling, I'm not really so sure that I understand everything that I do. So how can I better understand that? And I decided I should write a book. And so part of it was just for my own learning and edification.
Yeah.
And in that process, I looked back at a certain point and I said, okay, there are some principles here that underlie everything. And I came up with 5 of them.
Yeah.
And one is that everything we do when we're collaborating, even when we're not collaborating, we do with our words, like you and I are having this conversation.
Mm-hmm.
People who are listening to this podcast are listening to our words, and they are making sense of our words with their own words.
Mm.
So we're constantly engaging in words. That's no surprise to anybody. But we also do everything with the body. You and I are speaking to each other and listening to each other from our respective bodies.
Mm.
And these bodies have their own experience, their own training, their background, their upbringing, their cultural traditions, which are largely shared, but are also quite different. As you said, how do you pronounce Jill? It's different depending on where you live.
Yeah.
So we have words, we have a body, and we have our attention. And this is something that I've never seen anyone talk about in Aikido, in collaboration, but I really came across it as I was studying and teaching Aikido, the power of managing our attention well.
Yeah.
So we need to be aware of these areas of how we use our words, how we're using our bodies, and the role of our attention. That's one principle, is awareness of those 3 domains.
Once you wake up your realization of how powerful words are, and how we use our language and how we disempower ourselves and we give over our power to other people just by historical words that we've incorporated from other people, it's just shocking that and it's like once you've seen it, you can't unsee it, and you go, oh, do I do that? Oh yeah, I do, don't I? Oh flip. And it's having that awareness of the words that we use to empower ourselves and others, I think, is huge. And again, with the body language, absolutely. I mean, it's not just the body language, it's the energy that you give off, Have you ever seen the Amy Cuddy TED Talk where
Yes.
she talks about your physiology?
Mm-hmm.
And basically use your physiology to inform your brain of how you want to feel. So you get out there. So if you're going networking or something and you're feeling like you've had a bit of, oh, I don't want to go, that's what's going to come through if you don't do something about it. So you have to go away and kind of psych yourself up and get energized to be positive and out there, so that your energy that walks in just before you do will be matching what you want to attain within that arena, where if you're going networking or wherever you are, if it's an important meeting or if it's an interview, you can't go and interview feeling scared and afraid and nervous, and that shows through. And even in your voice, you can hear that. So your body and the language that comes off from that, it's the invisible stuff. There's this wonderful study, isn't there, about micro expressions.
Microfacial expressions, yeah.
Yes, and a friend of mine has studied it, and oh my goodness, she was good. It was like the little raise of the eyebrow, something. She's like, oh, and she would just analyze to death and go, oh yeah, good point, got it, nailed it straight away. It's fascinating science.
Yeah, there's something else about the body too that you're pointing to, which is that we all have a nervous system. And the state of that nervous system has a lot to do with how we're going to perceive the things around us, the people, the behaviors, even how we're going to interpret the words that we hear and the words that we speak. So beginning to become more aware of our nervous system, of the state of our nervous system, really, and to take on practices that can help us balance out the nervous system and tone the nervous system, because most of us in today's world are really heavy on the arousal side of things. The sympathetic part of the nervous system, which is responsible for gearing us up for action and charging us up. And that's not always, it's neither healthy for us as a steady diet, nor does it help us to actually perceive things more neutrally and evenly, because we're always, when we're hyper aroused all the time, which is another way of talking about stress, which is chronic hyper arousal, we're going to interpret things generally more negatively as greater threats than they might be. So really taking into account the state of our nervous system is an important part of learning how to collaborate well. Otherwise, we're just going to be running on adrenaline and habit.
That's so true. One of the habits, a good habit that we've created at Collaboration Global, is that every meeting we have, one of our members who's a Qigong master will give us share a meditation. And as much as I might be rushing around and busy, and as soon as he goes into it, I'm like, whoo, gosh, I needed that. Wow.
Yeah, I read that on your website. I think that's great. I do that with every group that I work with. I start all our workshops, I start meetings with brief meditations. And it really makes a big difference.
It's about being present, isn't it, to the moment? And it goes on to your thing about attention, paying attention. And how can you pay attention if you're still buzzing from the thing that you were doing 10 minutes previously? It's about the power of now, as Eckhart tells us, is just having that moment to go, no, I'm going to be here. I'm going to be focused on this. I'm going to take what I can from this. Same as if you're listening to this podcast, don't rush around and think, oh yes, I've listened to that one, tick that box. I've done that. It's like, what can you take from these words that you might have heard many times before? You might consider yourself an expert in collaboration, but there might be something that's said that could be profound for you in this moment today, that if you're rushing and you're not paying full attention, you're going to miss it. So it's like having that opportunity to just remind yourself, to center yourself and ground yourself, and just, again, enjoy when you're in a community of a collaboration, whether there's 3 of you or 5 of you or a dozen of you, however many people, be present at every meeting. Don't have your phone on the go. Don't have your laptop open. Oh, I'm making some notes. No, just listen to the conversation that's going on first. And then give everybody 5 minutes to go make some notes, but just focus on each other's faces, listen to the people and look in their eyes when they're talking to you, and just be present, but be aware of what's going on for that person as well, because you can see if there's stress going on that they're trying to hide. You can see if there's nervousness or lack of confidence or inability, and they need support and help. And if you don't stop to give that moment, you're going to miss it. And then ultimately, if you're just looking at your collaboration, there's going to be cracks. They're going to show further down the road if you don't take care.
It's so important, isn't it?
One of the things we talk about before we start a collaboration, I'm interested to find out how you go about starting a collaboration, is we talk about setting up the rules of the game. This for us comes from the book Be More Pirate, written by Sam Allende, who talks about how pirates were way ahead of their time. If you're a regular listener to this podcast, you know how much I love this book. And they had their own society on board, and the pirate code that we know of was set up for every single voyage. And there was no one person in charge. It wasn't the captain, it wasn't the first mate. It was consensus created the pirate rules, and they chose all of the things that they needed, which is why they were able to create the first insurance policy. If we're going into battle and you lose a leg, then this is how many doubloons you're going to get paid. If you want to get married to somebody of the same sex, yeah, we're not against that. Carry on, knock yourself out. We'll perform the ceremony. All of these kind of things that was like, wow, in the 1700s, this is crazy. But they were the rules that helped those ships to be able to do the things that they did, the positive things that they did as well, and to be so successful. And they were for many, many years, because they sat down before every voyage and said, right, what are the rules of the game? What are we doing? What's our pirate code for this ship?
That's just remarkable.
And everybody had to sign it, even if it was just with a cross. Everyone had to agree to those rules that they had proposed. It was everyone in it. So for me, when I do a collaboration, I sit down and there's certain things that we go through so that we can go, right, obviously values, what do you want to get out of it? What's your vision? What are you bringing to the table? What's your genius? What do you love doing? What do you hate doing? What are your triggers? All the sorts of things that we can get out into the open before there's any stress. Because further down the line, if you're on a deadline or something's gone wrong and there's some stress, it's good to know that stuff in the beginning when there is no stress. You know, by the way, if you do this and this, that's going to trigger me because it really drives me nuts when people do that. Oh, okay. So you learn when there's no pressure, so that when there is a bit of pressure, you can accommodate each other and you can help each other through it. Ideally, you can help people to get rid of those triggers, you know, and have those conversations as well before the thing starts. But it just helps you to kind of ensure that if the wheels do come off in a collaboration, you've got people in there that are going to be, let's put the wheels back on, let's carry on, because this is good what we're doing. Let me help you. What do you need? How can I help? And you make it through. So I'm curious, that's kind of how we start the ball rolling. If you're starting a collaboration, what would you consider to be the important way to go through?
Well, it depends on the context of the situation that I'm in. When I used to mediate litigations, I was sort of more technical and kind of very businesslike, and I would not take a whole lot of time. I wouldn't focus on the emotional stuff. I would just kind of focus on the procedural, and then address things as they came up, and that was always like surfing big waves with large groups. And I imagine it's like surfing big waves because I'm not a surfer, but it looks pretty challenging.
Yeah.
When I work with business groups, I tend to keep it pretty simple and focus on maybe I just propose a handful of simple things we agree to, and I'll put them out there. And, you know, simple like, let's be on time. Let's be on time from breaks. That means, you know, if we're starting off with breakfast, already be done eating, finish your coffee, be back in your seat, ready to go. Does confidentiality matter here? If it does, then let's talk about what that means. So it's still largely procedural. I usually then will do a preface where I talk about that the good collaborations, especially when it really matters to people, when what happens matters, is often a messy process. It's not neat, it's not linear, and you're not always going to be comfortable. And even though I'm saying this to you all, this group that I'm addressing, I guarantee you will forget it as soon as you become uncomfortable. You'll forget that I ever mentioned it. But I'm saying it anyway, because then we can come back to it and I can remind you, hey, this is natural. This is part of the process. When you care about things, when things matter to you, we're going to get a little rattled if things seem to be going in a different direction or we're not getting what we think we want. And I talk about that, just because you're uncomfortable doesn't necessarily mean things are not going well. And just because you are comfortable doesn't mean things are going well. We could all be, acting out our habitual behaviors very nicely and easily and comfortably, but not really making a lot of progress. Maybe we're not talking about what's really important, some difficult issue to address, because it would make us uncomfortable. So we feel comfortable, but we're not very effective. So I set context like that, not because I expect people to remember it so much as that I can come back and we can, it's kind of setting a point of a point of reference that we can refer back to. And that kind of helps put people at ease when it does come up.
Yeah.
So I will take 10, 15 minutes at the beginning of a meeting that I'm facilitating or brought in to help facilitate. And I will go through, I'll do a kind of a whole rollout on these different concepts, just to kind of in my mind, I feel like I'm loosening the soil,
Yeah.
so that we can start to plant some seeds and water and see where things go.
Yeah, because don't you find at the beginning of a collaboration, people all come to the table with their agenda, but they're not really open to discuss it on day one. It kind of folds out bit by bit by bit. So by having that honest conversation in the beginning, especially if you're talking about values, and they don't have to be the same values, but it's nice if they're a little bit aligned, so you can understand where people are coming from. If education is your thing, or if honesty is your thing, or integrity is your thing, it kind of helps you to, okay, right, that works for you. I agree with that. Integrity is really important. So what does integrity mean to you, and what does it mean to me? So it's just kind of seeing how the land lies. One of the things I find most difficult in a collaboration is when there are some egos in the room. How do you deal with that?
Well, in my experience, there's never not egos in the room, my own included. So that's just, for me, it's a given. And I don't so much think of it as egos. I think of what I think you're describing as egos as these are our predispositions.
Yeah.
We're predisposed to want to get our way, to want to win, and there's often a sense of immediacy and urgency. And if it's a really important issue, there's a lot at stake. So we feel a lot of pressure. And when it looks like things are not going to go our way, that really can tweak people. And myself included. So I think the way I deal with it, I deal with it as things come up, as I see somebody saying something or not saying something, but looking like there's something going on with them. I'll often just hit the pause and I'll open things up. So, how are you all hearing what John has just said or what Jill has just proposed? Or I may ask, I may ask a pointed question to a particular individual, Joe, what do you think? Or Mary, what's your take on this? So I kind of deal with it as it arises in the course of the conversations. And I try and do it in a way that really normalizes whatever anybody might be experiencing. Because one thing that I've seen is I've never found anybody do or say anything that I haven't at least thought of saying or thought of doing, whether I've done it or not or said it or not. We all have these thoughts. Some are dark, some are light, some are happy, some are, really painful, scary thoughts. And so I try and really have folks, by my way of being, just let folks know, hey, it's okay. It's okay if you just said something, that others might feel really uncomfortable with. Let's explore that a little bit. Let's check in with everybody. How are you doing with what Bill just said? Or, Jane, how are you making sense of what's going on here?
It's really creating that safe space that people feel able to say what they're feeling or what they're thinking at that time.
It is.
And it's not easy, is it? We usually start from a place of one of our values at Collaboration Global is human being first. So we say that because you're a human being first, we love you. So the foundation is built on rock of love. So people are not going to sit in the room and say, the thing about you is that there's none of this kind of antagonism or ego from the point of view of I'm right, you're wrong. We say that, let's explore. There isn't necessarily in this space a right or wrong answer. It's just an opportunity to explore how you're feeling, and your feelings are not wrong. They are what they are at the moment, and let's see where they've come from. So it allows people to kind of go, oh, okay, I'm not wrong. I don't have to lose face. I don't have to pretend. I can be open and honest and authentic and laid bare if necessary to how I'm feeling. I don't have to hide anything from anyone. So that's a really hard thing to do in an organization that are not used to being in that way. In our community, that's kind of, we're used to it now. We kind of get, it's that thing. I remember one guy said to us when he was at a face-to-face meeting, his day job was doing the circuits as a speaker and entertainer for the corporate world. And he said generally his best gig was when he was given permission to take the mickey out of the ego in the room. And quite often that was the CEO or some director. He said, and what happened, you'd have a room of 200 people, just had their dinner, they're ready for the party afterwards, and I'm the entertainment, I've come on, and I look at who the ego is, work out who it is, and then spend at least 10 minutes ripping them to shreds. Everybody else loves it, they hate me, he said, but I've been a success because 99% of the people in the room love me. He said, but I've been sat here, he said, I've been sat here for 3 hours now, it's really annoying me. He said, I can't see who the ego in the room is, I can't work it out. I said, well, that's because, I said, they are here, I'm telling you, they are here. But they have to leave the ego at the door when they come in. They have to be honest and open and not, I'm right, you're wrong. That doesn't exist in this space. I said, but if you want to go down to the bar and meet the guys afterwards and have a chat, you'll see them at blink of an eye. It all comes back again. So, but in this space, we have to leave the ego at the door. The only way.
That's quite an accomplishment to have created a setting like that with diverse people.
Yes, and it goes back to what we were talking about before we even came on air, about connection. And when you build those connections with people, it doesn't happen overnight. It does, it's kind of establishing the culture that is empowering everybody in the room, from the most timid to the most, arrogant or outgoing person you can have, but bringing everyone to the same level of, it doesn't matter you've been in this game 5 minutes or 50 years, we still have something to contribute, and we will listen to everybody equally. But you have to remind people at the beginning of each meeting that these are the rules, these are the rules of the game, this is how we play this game in this space. And it is releasing, it's like people feel free for probably the first time for a lot of them, where they feel like they have to kowtow, or he's the governor and I can't really say that out loud. And all of a sudden they're given permission to be honest with everybody. And it's amazing because somebody will say it and be brave enough to say it, and then there'll be 4 or 5 people go, yeah, I agree. And you're like, oh, not just me then. And all of a sudden they're like, hello, I'm so glad I said that. And confidence rises, and and it gives a different energy to the room once you get that honesty in that space. But
absolutely,
as you say, it takes a bit of work.
Well, you mentioned connection, and that's actually the second principle that I talk about in the book, which is that it's really kind of simple. It's sort of ridiculously simple, but it's easy to miss that, which is that we're always already connected. The instant we walk into a room or log into a Zoom call or whatever it is, we're sniffing each other out. Our nervous systems are bouncing off each other's, mostly unconsciously, below level of awareness. But when we when we just recognize the possibility that this connection exists, we realize that this connection can take us in different directions. If I'm not grounded or centered, if I'm being aggressive, for instance, that connection can work against us and drive us further and further apart.
Mm.
On the other hand, if I can harness this connection for good, then it can bring us closer together. But that's up to me, which is the third principle. It's I'm at the center of the action. And I'm not saying that to suggest that the world revolves around me, although biologically I think it does.
Mm.
It's true for all of us. We only see what we see, and the world appears to us the way the world appears to us.
Yeah.
And that's different than it appears to everybody else. Even though sometimes those differences feel like they're negligible, they're still there.
Yeah.
And if we're pushed hard enough, or if the stakes are high enough, or if we're around people who are different enough, or all of those things, then it becomes very evident. And it's up to me. If I want to really collaborate effectively, I need to recognize that I have to change myself in order to be more collaborative, more welcoming, more inviting, more open. I can't go around trying to change all of my colleagues who are closed-minded, uncooperative, non-collaborative in my mind.
Yeah.
That's my mind. That's my mind creating those interpretations of them. And as long as I'm living there, I'm going to treat them exactly like I see them.
Yeah.
I can't not. It would be insincere, inauthentic for me to treat them like they're open if I have convinced myself they're closed and arrogant people. So this is why I call collaboration an internal art, because it really is about me needing to work with myself to be more collaborative. I just can't go around fixing you and everybody else that I have problems with. It doesn't work. It makes things worse. Who wants to be around that?
Exactly. Totally exhausting as well. You just can't, and you're never going to be happy.
Yeah, it is exhausting.
Never going to be happy. It's so true. It's so true. It's all about, I mean, for me in our book at Collaboration Global, Together We Could Do Something Wonderful. We put it into 3 parts. The first part is about you and understanding who the hell you are and what you're about. Then we look at business. So if you know who you are, then your business is going to be like you, and there's a purpose for your business, and it's a purpose for good. And then the third part is the collaboration and the collaborate. And we talk about people's profiles, and not from a point of view of like a disc profile or an Enneagram or anything like that. It's a profile of a responsibility that you take on throughout the collaboration. And it might be you start with that responsibility and then change halfway, and then maybe at the end you're doing something different. It might be your true talent that gives you that responsibility and you say, yep, that's my game, I'm going to take that on. Or it might be something you'd like to try out because you've never done it before. But there are a dozen responsibilities that people are aware of that make the collaboration go easier.
Oh yeah, interesting. So it sounds like you're talking about with the word profile, behaviors or things that people do, as opposed to trying to nail down properties of people. Yes. I like that. I think that's really helpful.
Yeah. So
I found it less helpful when we try and peg people to certain characteristics, because then they're locked in and we're locked into that view of them.
Yes.
I really like the way you're describing that.
I'm not a fan of labels. So it is just something that is a voluntary thing, but everything from the visionary to the driver who's pushing it forward, to the strategist, to the salesperson, to the tweaker who's going to actually look at it, critically and tweak it to make it better. And to the person that's going to go, right, that went well. Let's review it and have a look back and see what we can do to pay it forward and create it all over again. So it's having those little responsibilities, but everyone knows it's that person, or it's swapped over, and there's somebody there that's the nurturer who's going to be saying, look, you weren't that great at the last meeting. What happened? Do you want to have a chat about it? So it's their responsibility. It might be they're a natural nurturer, or it might be, do you know what, I'm not very good at this. Can I practice it with this next project, please? Can I be that person? So opportunities to swap around. Some people will be naturally at it, like quite often it's a salesperson. It doesn't mean because you're the sales responsibility that you have to do the sales. You're responsible for the sales to happen. So you make sure that it is ongoing. It doesn't have to be you that goes out and does every single sale, but it's you that makes sure that everything is in place to ensure the sales come in. So and the same with the nurturer. You might not be a natural nurturer. You might go up and put your foot in the conversation and be absolutely the worst person. But if you're responsible for a nurturer, then you've got to make sure somebody else is out there looking out for these people who report back to you, so you know everybody's okay. So it's that.
You're describing archetypes. These are sort of archetypes that show up in meetings. And yeah, I've seen that these archetypes often move around. They take on different people take on different archetypal roles, even in the course of a single conversation.
Yes.
And you're bringing them to light. You're calling them out so people can actually see, oh yeah, there is a role called nurturer. And maybe I've never done that. Maybe I can take that on and play with and practice that. That's brilliant.
Oh, thank you.
Are you aware of the work of Arnie Mindell?
No.
You'd probably find his work interesting.
Okay, I'll check that out. Thank you. I've written that down. I love it when I get another person that I can go and explore. That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, that's great, isn't it?
So going back to responsibilities, for me, it's mainly a case of I've seen collaborations happen where one of those was missing and it didn't work. And it's like, so as time goes on, you're like, right, so let's call it out and let's say we need these 12. There might be others. I'm not saying that it's a definitive list, but it's like most 99.9% of collaborations need this at some point throughout their collaboration. So let's bring it out and out of hiding. And rather than have it by accident, because we've observed it's happened and that went well, oh, that was brilliant. Or that was missing. Oh, we should have had that. Let's do it on purpose and bring it to the fore. I'd love to hear one of your stories, Grayson, about a fabulous collaboration that you didn't think was going to get off the ground, and the collaboration that never got off the ground, and you're like, why the hell, what went wrong there, what happened? You got any good stories?
Well, I'll tell you one story from my book, which is sort of it contains both of those dimensions.
Okay.
It was when I was a mediator. And the role is sometimes referred to as a settlement referee or special master in the court systems in California.
Right.
And there were about 35 parties to this lawsuit. And I was still mostly apprenticing to my mentor, who had been doing this for 12 or so years. We were kind of unique in the mediation community, in the legal community as mediators, because we were not attorneys, he and I. And most of our peers doing mediation were retired judges or attorneys. So we had to kind of rely on other ways of bringing people to negotiate to the negotiation table and resolving things. At one of these, and these processes often went on for 6-9 months. These are complicated lawsuits with a lot of parties. So about 2/3 of the way through one of these, I'd been working with my mentor, David, and he got sick. And there was an important meeting coming up with all of the parties to the lawsuit. And he said, well, Grayson, you're on your own. You got to do this yourself. So I went in and I was kind of nervous. I knew these people, they knew me, but they'd known me as David's, sidekick.
Yeah.
So I kind of I felt a lot of pressure to prove myself. We started off and things seemed to go pretty well. Then after about an hour and a half or so, somebody said something. One of the parties said something that just stopped everybody. I don't remember what it was, but stopped everybody just short. And I suddenly had no idea what to do or say. It felt like this person had thrown a wrench into, we were making good progress, and suddenly he'd thrown a wrench into the midst of everything. And I didn't see a legal argument. I didn't see a single move to make. And I started to panic inside.
Yeah.
And I found myself falling back on my Aikido practice. I'd been doing Aikido for about 9 or 10 years by this point.
Mm.
I've been teaching it. And the only thing I could muster was just breathing. So I brought my attention to my breath, and I just sat quietly at the
Mm.
head of this room, breathing. And I would notice these spikes of panic thoughts go through my head. My God, what if this goes on for, it felt like it was hours, but it was probably, 5, 10, 15 seconds. And I just stayed with it because I honestly didn't know what else to do. I just kept breathing and quieting my mind.
Mm.
And then all of a sudden, somebody else who hadn't spoken at all in these proceedings, he said something that all of a sudden turned the whole thing upside down. And everybody started saying, yeah, and they started laughing and saying, yeah, you're absolutely right. This is actually something we should consider. And things started flowing, and the meeting went beautifully.
Yeah.
So it was both this moment of absolute terror, like I'd lost everything was unraveling, and I was going to just make a mess of things. And it was a powerful lesson for me.
Mm.
It was a lesson in, first of all, sometimes the only thing I can do is take care of myself.
Yeah.
Is just quiet my nervous system, calm the body, calm the mind, and also realizing that everybody really wanted things to work out. And because I was creating space, not because I chose to, because it was the only damn thing I could figure out to do at the time, but that space allowed somebody else to step in with their good thinking, their sound thinking, and calm demeanor, and make the move that needed to happen. So since then, I've noticed many times that sometimes just shutting up, when I can just be quiet, even when things are tense, and everyone is looking at me to like resolve the conflict, I'm not so quick to jump in and try and resolve the conflict anymore. Because one of the things that I learned in that moment and subsequent was, the more I solve everybody else's problems, the more they're going to continue and the less people are going to learn. So this is where kind of remembering, hey, just because we're feeling uncomfortable in a conversation doesn't mean things aren't going well. And so I've learned to tolerate discomfort in myself more and more, which seems to help other people kind of relax with it too. And sometimes I'll mention it, sometimes I'll point it out, sometimes I won't.
I love that. It's giving people space is a precious gift, isn't it? And if you've got that room to think, rather than somebody keep on and on and on and think about this and what about that, and if everyone can just be with themselves, that's from Rudyard Kipling, isn't it? If his poem, if you can be with yourself and others. I can't remember the line now. Sorry.
Oh yeah, I'm vaguely recalling that. Yeah.
I'll have to go and look it up, but it's very true. It's being with yourself, resting in who you are, and not worrying about the outcome, and just being. And then you're gifting someone that space for them to kind of take the mantle if they choose. I think that's a beautiful thing. I shall remember that. Thank you. Yeah. Grayson, we've come to almost an hour. It's gone.
How did that happen so quickly?
I know, it's crazy. We've only just
I felt like we're just getting started.
But maybe, I always say this, maybe do part 2, but this is crazy. I seem to be saying this every episode. If people wanted to get in touch with you, what's the easiest way of them to get hold of you for conversation?
Probably the easiest is email, which is Grayson@Full Contact Institute. We just changed our name from Grayson James Consultants to Full Contact Institute.com. Or you could go onto the website and contact us that way.
Okay, .com. And if they wanted to buy your book, is that available on the website, or should they go?
Yeah, it's available on the website. It's available for pre-order. It's not coming out. It's not going to be released until the end of August. So we've got about 6 or so weeks left.
Lovely.
But you can certainly pre-order it, and pre-order for your team, your friends, your family. That would be great.
Oh, I didn't realize I had a sneak peek. That's brilliant. Thank you.
Yes.
Before it came out. So if you want that full contact performance, the internal art of organizational collaboration, brilliant. And if anybody would like to have a look at Together We Can Do Something Wonderful, which gives you the essence of how to collaborate effectively, that's also available on Amazon or collaborationglobal.org website as well. Thank you so much for coming for this podcast. It's been fascinating to talk to somebody who's coming at collaboration from the same perspective but different. There's always something to learn. There is no one definitive right way to do things in this world, and this really has highlighted to me, I love what you're doing with the Aikido and bringing that in. It's a different part of the brain that you can bring into a collaboration. It's not a fight to win. It's not a I'm right, you're wrong. It's not about making money per se, although that is part of what collaboration is about. It's about connection. And I think that was the thing that we started with at the very beginning, is we are all connected as human beings, and in collaboration we can connect on a deeper level and support and help each other to be greater than we can on our own. And that's what, for me, is collaboration is all about. So thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you so much, Jill. Really enjoyed it.
See you soon.